Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into a pretty wild story today out of Hanceville, Alabama.
Yeah, it's definitely got some twists and turns.
So the entire police department is on leave, like
Yeah.
everybody, and a grand jury is actually recommending that the whole department be disbanded.
Which is it's not something you hear every day. And the grand jury didn't mince words.
Right.
They actually called the Hanceville Police Department a criminal enterprise, which is, well, that's pretty serious stuff.
Wow. Okay. So we've got news reports, legal documents, the whole nine yards, and it looks like things in Hanceville are, well, way more complicated than just a couple of bad apples.
Yeah, for sure. Like, one of the accusations is that officers were misusing state criminal databases.
Which, that's a huge deal, right?
Huge. These databases are powerful tools. They've got sensitive personal info, criminal histories, all kinds of stuff. And they're only supposed to be used for official law enforcement purposes.
Right. So if they're using it for something else, that's a big problem.
Absolutely. It's a violation of privacy. It could even put people in danger.
It gets even worse, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
The indictment also says officers were distributing, wait for it, controlled substances to each other.
To each other. Like, what's going on there? It just makes you question the whole culture of the department, you know?
Yeah, like who's supposed to be upholding the law if the police are breaking it?
Exactly. And then on top of all that, the grand jury found evidence of serious issues with how evidence was handled. Like, some of it's even gone missing.
Okay, so if evidence is messed up or missing, what happens to cases that use that evidence?
It throws everything into doubt. Convictions could be overturned. People who should be behind bars could walk free.
And beyond the legal stuff, wouldn't that just totally erode public trust?
Oh, absolutely. If you can't trust the police to handle evidence properly, how can you trust them to, do anything right?
Now, there's also this whole other layer to this story, right? A police dispatcher who had access to the evidence room was found dead at work, and the autopsy showed fentanyl and other drugs in his system. So, could this just be a coincidence?
It's possible, I guess, but it seems like this death was kind of a turning point in the whole investigation, the thing that made people really start digging deeper.
It does make you wonder, was he onto something he shouldn't have been? Did he accidentally stumble onto something?
Right, or was it not an accident at all?
That's a chilling thought, especially when you consider that Hanceville is a small town.
3,200 people, just a short drive north of Birmingham. People probably knew these officers personally. Can you imagine?
You'd be calling the same people you see at the grocery store for help if something bad happened.
And they're the ones involved in all this. That just has to completely shatter any sense of security, any trust in law enforcement.
And from what we're seeing in the news, the reactions from residents are pretty mixed.
Yeah, some folks are totally shocked. Others are saying they kind of saw this coming.
So maybe there were warning signs, but nobody knew what to do or who to tell.
It really makes you think about how important it is for communities to be able to hold their police departments accountable, you know? Like, if there are problems, there needs to be a way to address them before they spiral out of control.
I mean, the whole department's basically shut down, right?
Uh,
So what happens now? What are the options for a town like this?
Well, it's a tough spot to be in. I imagine the city council has some big decisions to make.
Like, do they try to start the police department over?
Right, from scratch, which would take a long time and a lot of money.
And even if they do that, how do you rebuild trust after something like this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, this has to leave people feeling vulnerable, unsafe.
Right, like who do you call when you need help if you can't trust the police?
Exactly. To rebuild that trust, you need transparency, you need accountability, and you need the police and city leaders to really commit to fixing the problems that caused this whole mess in the first place.
Makes you wonder if there were signs this was happening, things that maybe people missed or ignored,
Yeah, I'm sure investigators are looking into that. Were there complaints about these officers that got swept under the rug? Was there like a culture of silence in the department?
where people were afraid to speak up.
Exactly. Sometimes these things happen little by little, small things that get worse over time.
Until it all blows up.
Right. And this whole thing in Hanceville, it raises questions about other police departments too.
You're saying this could happen anywhere.
It could, and it highlights how important it is to have systems in place to keep police accountable. You need clear ways to report misconduct, investigate it, and you need people who can review those investigations fairly.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys after they've done something wrong. It's about preventing it from happening in the first place.
Absolutely. You have to create a culture where everyone knows that integrity matters.
Where officers aren't afraid to call out bad behavior.
And that starts at the top. You need strong leaders, police chiefs, mayors, city council members who make it clear that ethical policing is the priority.
And the community has to be involved too, right?
100%. People need to feel comfortable reporting problems, speaking up about what they see.
Because at the end of the day, the police are supposed to be there to serve the community.
That's right. It's a partnership. And when that partnership breaks down, it's bad news for everybody.
This case really shows how fragile trust is. I mean, it can take years to build trust between a community and the police, but one scandal like this can just destroy it instantly.
Yeah, and once that trust is gone, it's really hard to get it back. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a real commitment to doing things differently.
This is all pretty heavy stuff. It's easy to feel helpless, like, what can one person do? But this situation in Hanceville, it kind of shows that we all have a part to play in making sure law enforcement is held accountable.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to just tune out these stories, especially when they seem far away. But this could happen anywhere.
So what can we actually do? Like, how can we make a difference?
I think the first thing is just to be aware. Talk about these issues, share these stories, and let your elected officials know that you care about police reform.
Right. And it's not about saying all cops are bad. It's about making sure there are systems in place so that everyone's held to a high standard.
Exactly. There are organizations out there fighting for police reform. Support them. Push for independent oversight committees. Go to city council meetings and make your voice heard.
Because, most police officers are good people trying to do a tough job. We need to support them too.
Yeah, absolutely. The goal is to create a culture where doing the right thing is just what you do. Not because you're afraid of getting caught, but because it's the right thing to do.
What really gets me about this whole thing is how betrayed the people of Hanceville must feel.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
The people you're supposed to be able to trust, to turn to for help, are the ones who broke the law. Rebuilding that trust is going to be a long road.
It is. It'll take a lot of work from everybody. City leaders, police, the community, everyone has to be on board.
Well, this has been a pretty intense deep dive, but I think it's an important one. It shows that we all have a responsibility to pay attention to what's happening with law enforcement and to speak up when things aren't right.
I agree. By staying informed, getting involved in our communities, and demanding better from our leaders, we can work towards a system that's fair and just for everybody.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.